So y'all had a chance early this morning to go out and ride with Chad and in a production ZR2, and hopefully you saw a difference between the two. Chad's truck, as we talked about in the meeting with Mark, is really built off of this platform. So when Mark talked about a couple of things, he mentioned them was capacity, and that's how we get more performance out of this is capacity. And we get capacity by two ways. We get it through suspension travel, and we get it by load. And we're taking the load out essentially with stiffer rates and the jound shocks. The jound shocks are the really big soaker of capacity for us. So if we go to the front, we'll just kind of work from the front to the back. We run a production ZR2 front skid plate. We do run a mid skid plate, almost the full length of the body underneath. This is something that's more race specific than a development part. So just to answer that for you right up front. Chad has a version of this exactly the same, just a little bit different construction method. So we run a coilover DSSV damper. It runs a stock ZR2 body. The internals are completely different. So we're running Viton seals. We obviously have a coilover. We run a stiffer rate spring. We run a solid lower mount. We run a modified upper mount. More suspension travel. One of the ways to make that happen is we have to have a higher joint articulation. So we have a high articulation upper ball joint. We're running a stock sway bar, stock links. We do run a higher capacity tie rod with a higher articulation inner joint as well. We run a stock outer joint. One of the other ways that we get suspension travel or the ability to have suspension travel is we run this ball spline plunging half shaft. So what that means is the shaft plunges, not the inner joint. So we have a fixed inner and outer joint, and we put the plunge in the shaft. So that allows us to always have full articulation of the joint, never taken out by the joint plunging. And then it helps as well because it takes the load off the joint, puts it in the shaft. And that's a big enabler as well from the driveline standpoint. One of the big capacity takers is this, the jound shock. So great little system, tuned specific for this truck. It's essentially an air shock with fluid in it. So you have two ways to tune it. You can put more or less air pressure or more or less fluid. And that is what gives us the ability to take capacity at the maximum amount of load we want to have. I think that is it for the front. We run stock brakes, stock knuckles, stock control arms, just different joint, stock bushings. Sway bar stock, steering gear stock, everything stock in the front.
Can you go about the lower control arm again? I just missed that.
So lower control arm is completely stock.
Okay.
Simple.
Great. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Easiest answer of the day. So the rear suspension, we'll start with the drive line. One of the things that we have is we run a steel drive shaft opposed to the aluminum drive shaft that you see in the production truck. This is primarily just we get the same exact performance, both of them perform exactly the same. The thing that the steel drive shaft enables us, it takes a lot more damage. You'll see that this is scarred up from a lot of rock strikes. Chad's truck is scarred up from a lot of rock strikes. We've never changed the drive shaft on one of these trucks. It's more than
the standard one is made of what?
Aluminum.
Aluminum, okay. So
Yeah.
steel versus aluminum.
Yes, and the aluminum one's slightly bigger in diameter, so this helps us, theoretically at some ground clearance level. So, but it's not major. It's more for strength and durability than it is for anything else. One of the things that you see here is this big kind of member running down the middle. That's what we call an anti-wrap link. So that is a mechanical device that takes axle wrap up instead of allowing that load to transfer to your springs. That was laid out in conjunction with this leaf spring. The leaf spring is what we consider a full race leaf pack. It takes all the quieting devices and separation devices that you'll see in a production leaf and eliminates them. So we run leaf to leaf. We run a 6-pack leaf, no overload spring, compared to a two leaf. I think the ZR2 is stock with an overload. So we have a single rate compared to a dual rate. The other thing that we do with this leaf is we lengthen the main leaf, which helps take some stress out of the system. It also allows us to play a game of centering the tire at full jounce. So we don't have this arcing into the front, we arc it into the middle.
Why didn't you guys put a coilover back there?
That would have mandated that we transition to a 5-link or 4-link or type of selective suspension. So our goal was, one of the goals we had this truck is anything that we do to it, we don't want to do any welding. Everything is a bolt-on, either directly bolts on to the existing mounting locations, or for instance, the jout shocks, we bolt that onto the frame section. So everything is bolt-on, no welding required. So that's the leaf spring. The leaf spring also, we use a lot of devices here that are kind of, they're minor in look, but they're actually major in how they work. You can see that we have dive planes essentially on our spring spacer. That helps the leaf be able to fully articulate without wanting to bend around the holder essentially. Custom anchor for the bottom. We've integrated the jout shock touchdown into the spring spacer. We run a full metal-to-metal stop. You can see we have a little bit of clay on top of it, trying to tell us how close we're actually getting to bottoming. We run an aluminum rear diff cover. That diff cover holds a little bit more volume, but we use it primarily for a slight bit of strengthening of the axle in that area, but also primarily as a mount for our rear of the anti-wrap link.
I'm sorry, mount for what?
The rear of the anti-wrap link. So you can see this. So we have this. This actually is the link of the anti-wrap link. This is the rear mount, and you'll see that this bar here is a longitudinal bar that spans 2 cross-car frame mounts, and all this longitudinal bar is an adjustable mount for us that we can lengthen or shorten this anti-wrap link, and that'll help us if we want to artificially pull the suspension forward, or we can push it rearward, and we can tune that where we want it.
Now, if somebody wanted to add all these parts to their truck, is that doable?
That's what we're working on.
Okay.
So these are development parts. We've used them to learn about the platform, the ZR2 platform. We're learning about how they work in the off-road environment, and that's why Chad Hall has partnered with us, and why we wanted Chad to partner with us is to kind of validate our theories and how they function, and is capacity in this range enough for an off-road vehicle that somebody would want to perform with.
Now, with these shocks, are you doing a little bit of a lift? Are you getting a little bit more ground clearance?
So we get a little bit of a lift, front and rear.
Yeah.
Not a lot to speak of. We do run a body lift, an 1.5-inch body lift. That's more for tire clearance than it is anything else.
So you do run a body lift?
We do run a body lift.
How much? Inch?
1.5 inches.
Inch and a half? And what, an inch out of the suspension?
I'll hesitate to say exactly what it is, because we may increase it and we may decrease it.
What do you think is the one change that's the biggest to the truck of all the stuff you've done? You know, what gives you the most bang for your buck?
It's hard to narrow it down to one because they all work so well together. But I will say that the ability to increase this front suspension rate and a damper that we built to take it, as well as integrating a tunable jout shock to allow us to really pop over bumps, and then in the rear, it's just more capacity out of the leaf spring. This leaf spring is capable of staying together and traveling at further lengths than the production one is.
And how about the shocks in terms of heat dissipation? How do they do? Do they heat up or?
That's one of the benefits of the DSSV design. They're notorious for not fading. And you'll see that we consider this currently, an excellent off-road shock. And if you compare it to something else, it's smaller, right?
Yep.
But this is the ability to dissipate heat out of this style of shock, and that's why we like it so much here.
But I noticed you got it right next to the exhaust there, so.
Yeah, and you can see our heat stickers too. But you notice the heat stickers haven't even activated yet.
Right.
So, and we ran those on Chad's truck too, and we were happy with where they're at, and we were happy with performance. We took the shocks off of, for instance, off the Tonopah 250 truck, and we took them and dynoed them and compared that dyno test to the previous, before it ran the race, and they came back and they were almost line to line. So we see no internal fading or internal destruction out of that.
Well, thanks, Tim. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm
you
going to
got
take
it.
this off you and show them the rest of the truck.
No worries.
Hey guys, so this is a development truck that Chevy is building as a test mule for potential aftermarket parts that you guys could potentially buy at some point in the future. Of course, it's a ZR2. I love those KCs you can see up there. Chad Hall is running a version of this, actually pre-running the Baja, which is coming up in his race truck. But here's kind of a peek at what you guys could at some point buy to customize your truck. Of course, those Multimatic DSSB shocks are what Chevy is the proudest of, Formula One technology, and the truck that at some point could become one of the most off-road worthy trucks that you could buy, getting into not just regular off-road, but getting into like racing and some hard desert running as well. As always, let me put the camera around here. Could you do me a favor to say? Oh. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fast Lane Truck. Thanks for watching, and check out tfltruck.com for more news, views, and of course, real-world truck reviews. See you guys next time.